Welcome to the GoPROcast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to go pro with Jeremy Torres. Today we have Raj Subramaier, who is a tech career strategist focusing on helping people to land their dream job and become successful leaders. He's been featured in numerous TV segments, podcasts, and publications, including a couple of excellent TEDx talks. He's also the author of the book, Skyrocket Your Career, and he can be contacted at www.rajsubra.com. Please give a big warm applause to Raj Subramaier.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm sitting back from my microphone thing. Can't reach the volume there, so good. Had to give you your due applause, baby. How you doing, man?
I am doing great. I live in Chicago. The weather has been really good, so we enjoy good weather during winter when it's not snowing or when it's not below freezing temperatures. So.
Well, you just either you're psychic, you've seen the show before, or you just have good timing, because I ask every guest, first question is to tell me something good. So if you'd like to use that one, I'll let you slide by with that. That's awesome.
There's a lot of good things.
Tell us something else good.
Another thing was I just did a 1-hour workout before getting into this podcast. So I feel really pumped, and I'm also glad I did the workout, so that's another good thing which happened.
I love your shirt, man. Do epic shit. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I actually make these shirts because I thought, I always wear things which inspires and motivates me. And when I was launching the book, I thought, I could just also, whatever I usually say when I talk and when I coach people, I just put that on t-shirts as well. So I wear things which inspire me. Yeah.
My favorite t-shirt that I get so much of a pop from, is it says there could, would, should, and it's got 3 lines across them, and then at the bottom it says did.
Nice.
That's my favorite. I wear that thing out a lot.
Nice.
So let's get into it, man. So you help people and with their career, your career strategist, helping them land their dream job. So what kind of tech, because tech is so broad now, right? So first I want to kind of find out how you got into it, but first, what kind of tech, what kind of people do you work with now? What's your jam?
Yeah, I think that's a great question to start with, to set some context. So I'm a tech career strategist. So I help people specifically in the tech space to find their dream job and become successful leaders. I work with mid to senior level folks like managers, directors, CTOs, CEOs who are already in tech and who want to further their career, or they want some clarity in terms of the career path, or a small portion of people are people who come from a non-tech space and who want to get into tech. So that's kind of my jam, and that's but my main focus is working with mid to senior level folks to make them successful in the tech space and make them better leaders.
So what kind of tech is it that you guys specialize in or thrive in? Is it more of coding, creating? Is it chips? Is it, aerospace? What is it, the tech that you guys like to kind of play around with?
So mainly it's like product-based company, software company, tech products, right? Tech could be a really broad space, but I focus mainly on engineering.
Oh, okay, good. There we go.
Jobs, that's what I focus on.
All right. So how did you get here? Where did you start? In broad level, kind of what's your background? When did you decide, I don't think that being in the workforce is for me, but helping people get there and getting more people what they want is going to make me more fulfilled. And what did that journey look like?
So from my thick Texas accent, you already probably know, I was not born in the United States, right? So I grew up in the southern part of India from a place called Chennai, which is one of the 5 big cities which gives the revenue for India. And I grew up as a younger of 2 kids. And from a young age, I had this inferiority complex that I wasn't good enough because my dad,
that's global, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a global thing, right? And my dad, since he was born, he studied in scholarships, and then my brother was a genius. He has three masters and a PhD, and there I was, the average kid who didn't do well in anything. You name it, sports, dating, academics, everything. I was pretty average. And what happened was, I I was given three options growing up, and for all the Asian listeners out there, you may get this. You're usually given three options. You can either become a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. When I was growing up, right? So I chose the engineering path, and since then I've been an engineer in tech
Okay.
space, right? And I came to a point I think when I was about 19,
Yeah.
I came to a realization that, man, I've been wasting my life because I was living a life based on other people's opinions. I was
Yeah.
trying to make other people happy, but in that process, I was disappointing myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I decided, you know what? Screw society. I'm going to change this thing about my life. I'm tired of living such a life. And that's when the real transformation happened. And moving on from there, I started in tech.
Oh, wait,
As
hold on a second. I want to unpack that just a little bit. That's a pretty big decision.
right.
So, was there any sort of event or epiphany? Somebody finally broke the last straw. What was was there one thing that you can trace the lines back and said this actual event was really what triggered me to go? I can only be happiest if I'm true to myself.
Oh, I exactly know the event. So
Okay.
I still remember this moment vividly. I was 19. I was in my study room. Then all of a sudden, my chest started hurting,
No.
and the pain was increasing minute by minute. And then I started getting really scared because I've never felt that way, and my chest was hurting like crazy. So I thought it was a heart attack, but
Yeah.
apparently now I know it was my first panic attack.
Anxiety. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, tears started flowing on my cheeks, and then I started gasping for breath.
Wow.
And then I sat down, and then for 2 hours, I I started crying, and I didn't stop. I just kept crying, and all my feelings, which I bottled up inside me for the first 19 years of my life,
Jeez.
came out. And that's when I came to this realization that, you know what? Society has labeled me as dumb person, as a
Hmm.
weak person, not enough. And I was using those labels as my identity. But then I realized that, you know what? I have my own life. I can find my own identity. I can strive for greatness. And that's when that event changed everything in my life.
That is bad. That's awesome. Thank you. See how I set you up for that?
I know. I love all these effects, man. Like, it makes me, pumped up for this
Didn't give you a job
conversation.
in tech, maybe.
I know, right? I know. But
Oh,
yeah, so that was the main event, right? And
that's
then I
awesome.
still remember this, and I'm not even exaggerating. I took a paper and pen,
Mm,
started writing down all my fears, which were holding me down. I had
yeah.
fear of being judged, fear of being ignored, fear of public speaking, fear of failure. And then next to each one of them, I wrote down strategies which I thought at that time I'm going to follow to get rid of those fears. And
Yeah.
then fast forwarding, 25 years down the line, my whole life has been about overcoming each of the fears
Yes.
one by one, one by one, one by one, and that's how I got into what I'm doing today, right? So I worked for different companies over the past 15 years, and then came to a realization that I want to have more impact in society, and I want to use my skills to actually help people. And that's when I I remembered people telling me
Yeah.
when I was leading teams that you have a knack for motivating people, making complex things really simple.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. And here I am talking to you, being a tech career strategist.
So let's talk about the book for half a second,
Hmm.
shall we? Or all right. So the book is called Skyrocket Your Career. Okay. And what's it about? I see we can get it at Amazon and Book Baby.
Oh yeah, it's available worldwide on all bookstores. And my preferred method is Amazon or BookBaby. That's why I have only those two. But when if you scroll down, you'll see all other links where you can get the book. But the book is about helping people through their entire job life cycle. So what do I mean by that? From the point where they're trying to figure out what their ideal jobs could be, And then once they figure out their ideal jobs, how do they update their LinkedIn profile? How do they create resumes?
Oh,
Then
that's awesome.
once they do that, how to strategize the job application process? Then how do you ace interviews? How do you negotiate your salary, right? And then once you get the job, how do you succeed in that particular job? And then once you succeed in the job, how do you set yourself miles apart from the competition? So the book pretty much covers the entire job life cycle of people, and it's
Wow.
not only related to tech. It could be any job you
Yeah.
want to do, but I give you a strategy. And the book is only 99 pages. You said
Mm,
the main title of the book, which is Skyrocket Your Career, but the subtitle is The No Bullshit Approach to Find
yes.
Your Dream Job, Be Successful in It, and Transform into a Rock Star. So 99 pages of no bullshit with my experience combined in strategies, and that's what you're going to get. And I
I
love
like
that,
it.
man.
That's awesome.
And you can also download the first chapter for free from my website, because I know that when people say a lot of good things about the book and then when you finally buy it, you find out it's really shitty. So I don't want that experience for people. So you can
Yeah.
download the chapter and then you can decide whether you want to buy it or not. So
So I'm gonna buy it. 99 pages. That's something I could do. It's a very achievable goal for me because I'm a horrible reader. But I am a business coach. I coach businesses on how to engage their employee, and that's through the hiring process, onboarding, retention, conflict interest. It sounds like it's all in here that I could share this with my clients, and that would be a good how-to to learn how to build leaders, which is at the end of the day what we all want to do with our
and
bench.
also and also the icing on the cake was my book won the 2021 Reader's Favorite Award for the best nonfiction book.
Nice,
So what that
man.
it's like the Oscars for movies. Similarly, you have Reader's Favorite Awards for books, and my book won an award as well. So it has been impacting people, and I'm glad that I did it.
Well, this is great. So, where do you, what would you say your ideal client is? Who do you like to work with as far as how do people get in your space, and
Right.
what would they expect out of hiring you to help them find their dream job and all that? What's that process, the timeline kind of thing? What does that look like for your business model?
So first of all, they contact me and say, "Hey, Raj, I'm struggling in my career. Could you just help me with it?" And usually, the people who contact me are mid to senior level folks, because that's my expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So they're either folks who feel stuck in their career, do not know what to do next, or who are in the interview process and they're failing the interviews and they don't know how to ace that,
Yeah.
or they feel that their LinkedIn profile is not that great and they don't have their personal brand. So those are the three kind of categories of people who come to me.
So,
Once, yeah, go
well,
ahead.
I want to dig in on one of those because
Right.
yesterday I had Daniel Alfon on. I think I'm a LinkedIn expert. He's a LinkedIn expert. He wrote a book on it. So I think we've covered a lot of LinkedIn. I cover a lot of it on my stuff, but interviewing.
Right.
Could you give us 3 top mistakes that people make, and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 do this to differentiate yourself that nobody does on an interview,
Oh, 100%. So
or maybe not 3, whatever, 2, 1 couple for
one
each.
couple of things. The first thing they do is they do not identify different success and failure stories throughout their careers, because you are going to get questions like, tell me about a time where you solved a complex problem, what were the results? And
Yeah.
the problem with majority of people is they think about the answer during the interview, but you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to do that. What you're going to do is, when you know you're going to start attending interviews, write down different success and failure stories and memorize them at least on a high level, so that
Yeah.
when they immediately ask you that question, immediately you can pull a story from the toolkit which you have already prepared for, and
Yeah.
then answer it in that time. In that way, it comes out more naturally, right?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
number one. Number two, people think that if they don't get that job, that's the end of their life, right? They treat every job as if that's the only job available. No, there's so many jobs available, and you're having a
Yes.
conversation. And also remember that the person who's interviewing you also has some level of anxiety, right? So the point is, it's like a conversation. It's not that he or she is better than you. When you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
that kind of mindset, and if you prepare for questions proactively, you have a higher chance of acing those interviews. So that's kind of the two mistakes. But in terms of things you could do differently
Yeah.
to set yourself miles apart from your competition, would be, I highly recommend people doing what is called a 90-day plan. So it's just a mind map. When I say mind map, it's just like a flow chart
Mm-hmm.
of different things you think you can accomplish within the first 90 days. They teach this in business school, but who told you not to do that for a tech space? So what you're going to do is before you attend interviews, when you know you got an interview call, create a 90-day plan about different things you think you could do and send it to the person
Wow.
who's going to interview you. Immediately, you're already ahead of the curve because no one else does that, right? So that is number one. And maybe if you want another strategy, I would say think about icebreaker conversations. So, what do I mean by that? Based on research, an interview decision is already made within the first 5 minutes. Okay,
Yeah,
within the first 5 minutes.
that's
So
right.
within the first 5 minutes, you really need to ace that time. And the way to do that is do prior research on the interviewers. So
Yes.
say for example, if I'm interviewing you, what you are going to do is literally go to LinkedIn, put Raj Subramaier,
Yep.
you have my whole profile,
Whole
and then
life.
find some commonalities, right? So for example, if I've gone to Ohio State, you know, you would say, "Go Buckeyes." I see that you're from Ohio State. Immediately, you brought the anxiety level down, right?
Yeah.
So think about icebreaker conversations. Have the 90-day plan. Set yourself miles apart from your competition.
That's excellent advice, and especially the I noticed you. I noticed that you do this that I have in common with you. You know, I see that you. It's that's exactly how I connect with every single person on LinkedIn. You
Right.
know, I never send a LinkedIn invite without saying, I noticed that you like XYZ. I like ABC. You know, we need to be in each other's orbit.
Exactly.
You know, how about a virtual coffee? You
Right.
know, and that way you're having a conversation now with the person instead of talking about work. And now you're kind of forming a little mini bond. And they don't even know it. It's a Jedi mind trick.
Exactly. You have to find the common interest areas,
Yeah.
right? And
I
then,
like the resource in the 90-day plan. I've never heard that one before on an interview. That means you do
yeah,
some
and
research on the company and find out kind of where their goals are, and here's how I can contribute and what I could do in 90. That's a really a very interesting tactic.
and you can download a template from the book website as well, skyrocketyoucareerbook.com. And yeah, it's about all these small things which you can do to differentiate yourself. And that's what it's all about. Every freaking person has a degree.
Yeah.
Every freaking person has taken some certification or courses. But what is going to make you
Yeah.
different? That's what you need to think about.
So I want to backtrack just a little bit because you said something in the interview portion that made me regret moving on. You said that every interviewer also has a small amount of anxiety.
Yep.
So I should have asked this before I moved on, but can you give us some tips on how you overcame all those phobias and fears and anxieties? Just one or two things that helped you face and overcome them, because this whole show is about overcoming adversity. It sounds
Yep.
like you had your hands full.
So there's so many fears I had. So let's talk about. Do you want specific for interviews or in
No,
general
no, no.
fears?
I just want to know about you right now. I just
Okay,
want to know for
okay,
you.
okay.
What did you do? What worked for you? Because
So
this is important.
literally at that trigger event when it happened, remember I told you I wrote down different
Mm-hmm.
strategies which
Yep.
I'm going to follow,
So
and
first
then
of all was acknowledging it, I guess.
yep, recognizing it,
Yeah.
then figuring out okay what you could do about it. Then third thing is trying to take small steps towards implementing the plan. Right, it's a three-step process.
Yeah.
So let's give an example, right? Because it'll be helpful for your listeners and viewers as well. One of my biggest fears was the fear of public speaking, and I had the fear until 2011.
That's
Okay,
very common. That's another global thing. That gene
exactly.
skipped me, by the way. Put me on a stage and it put lights in my eyes, and I'm electric. But I know that's very rare. Uh,
Right, and I think it's so people can relate to this. So one day I got this email saying, Come and join us at this software conference. You know, it'll be epic and stuff like that." I get millions of emails like
yeah.
that, but every time I delete it. But this time around, I just kept looking at it
Hmm.
because my mind started spinning because one of the biggest fears was fear of public speaking, and I was just postponing it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was as if the email is talking to me. Then I said, you know what? I'm going to go to this conference and then see what it's all about. I swiped $3,000 of my own money
Wow.
with a credit card because my company was not going to sponsor me
Mm.
to go to a conference. So I went there, started seeing different speakers giving talks, and frankly, there were a lot of bad speakers as well, and that's what helped me, because I had this epiphany that, you know what, one of the biggest fears have been public speaking. What better way to get rid of that fear than actually becoming a speaker,
Yes.
right? That's when I had this eureka moment, and I said, you know what? I'm going to gather all the data on how to become a speaker. So, to cut a long story short, I gathered information from all the speakers there. And then in 2012, I started speaking in small meetup groups. Then in
Yeah.
2013, after 7 months and 23 trial runs, I gave my first conference talk, which was a huge hit.
Yeah.
And the rest was history. Fast forwarding to 2022, I've given 2 TEDx talks. I've spoken
Yes.
at 100 plus conferences. I've done 20 plus keynotes. The moral of the story is you have to get uncomfortable to become comfortable. There's
Yes.
beauty
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
becoming uncomfortable to get comfortable. And if you want to overcome your fears, there's no magical portion for it, right? There's no Harry Potter wand or something which magically changes your life. It's about these small steps which you do consistently over a period of time,
Yeah.
which really helps you to get to the other side of fear. And
Yeah.
that's what you're talking
And
about.
you know, at the end of the day, there's only 3 words that describe it: do epic shit.
Yep, do epic shit, man. That's what it's all about.
It is
I
all
think
about it.
a lot of people are stuck in the analysis and paralysis
Yes.
stage,
Yeah.
and they don't take action. They think everything has to be perfect. No, you don't have to be perfect. It's about doing stuff,
Yes.
because
Taking the
you can
action.
think about doing something for 50 years and then die, or 80 years or die, right? Again, I don't mean to be crude here, but I'm
Well.
just saying that action actually controls your mood. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like working out, but force yourself to start going on the treadmill, then your mood changes. So your
Yes.
action supersedes everything, and you have to do it consistently. And that's what you need to remember.
Yeah. I say action over adjectives. You
Yep.
know. So I'm just copying and pasting into the screen here all your little connections, how we can get in touch with you. But for the listeners, there's a Calendly, so Calendly, calendly.com/RAJSUBRA /discover that can set a time to speak with you, to do some strategic planning, or to just get to know you and see if you can help them in any way possible. Your website is just www.rajsubra, Raj Subra, and so and then Skyrocket is the book, Skyrocket Your Career, at skyrocketyourcareer.com. Anything else that you want to tell our people? We've got a couple more minutes here, but I just feel like I feel like we already covered so much, but you got some really great advice and some good energy, and I think our people are going to dig you.
That's good to know. One of the things, uh, probably a food for thought for your listeners or viewers, would be focus on building your personal brand. So, what do I
Yeah,
mean by
yeah,
that?
yeah.
So, say, for example, for 8 years, you've been buying the same brand of body wash, okay? And it's not just because one specific reason you're buying the brand of body wash. It's because the pricing, is because of the packaging, it's because of the fragrance, it's because of the durability, that it doesn't break open if you put it inside on your bathtub or something, it falls on your bathtub. It's about all these facets
Yeah,
of the body wash, which is making you go towards it again and again. And your personal brand is the exact same way. It's not just because you have a degree. It's not just not because you're a blogger. It's just not because you are a writer. It's about
yeah,
all these things which builds up your personal brand. And in this day and age, in this new normal, when so many jobs are available, it also means that so many people are applying for those jobs. So you have to figure out what is going to differentiate yourself from other people, and that's where your personal brand comes into picture. And quickly, couple of things you could do right now is update your LinkedIn profile. Keep your LinkedIn profile updated, right?
yeah. Let's
And
take
then,
just have a second, because you are so good at that. I'm going to give you a minute there, because, like I said, yeah, I talk about it all the time, bore everybody, because I love it. But that's how important it is. Look at yours. Yours is excellent. I mean, obviously, it was going to be excellent because of what you do. But explain to people, what is the key elements of having this great LinkedIn page, because it's really, I have no doubt as to what you do by looking at this.
so I think one thing to remember to keep in mind is people do not have that much time, okay, when looking at LinkedIn profile. So you want to make sure you have a catchy tagline. You want to make sure you have a decent profile picture. And then you have a good about me section. Your about me section is your elevator pitch. Within 30 seconds to a minute, you have to let people know why they have to notice you and why they have to hire you or why they have to get on a call with you, right? That is the most important thing. Just think of it like an Instagram
Yeah.
feed, right? You keep scrolling. All of a sudden, ooh, nice,
Yeah.
cute cat video. Then you stop. It's the same kind of effect you need to provide. That comes with your tagline. That comes with your about me section, right? And so that's what I would say in terms of LinkedIn. So have the social media footprint, update your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Another thing you could do is start attending conferences, meetups, and start growing your network, because that's when you're going to see a lot of opportunities. And those are some tips on how you could start growing your personal brand. And that's what is going to be key for you to get to the next level.
So I want to take that whole philosophy and flip it on its ear for 1 second, because the same applies to businesses. There are a lot of employees out there, but there is more right now. It seems like there's more choices than employees, actually. That you have the competition. It's a employees leveraged market right now. So as a business, it's the same advice. Who's going to go to work for? If I'm an employee, am I going to go to work for a robot that I can just see they make widgets every day? That's what they do. But if you make widgets too, and I look at your social media and I see personality, I see
Right.
the people in your company having fun, raising money for their community, uh, celebrating somebody's promotion on your website. I'm going, that's a company that cares. That's a company who's having fun. It's a company who's elevating their workers into leaders. Well, that's not a choice at all. That'd probably take less money to go to work for someone like that, because I know
Exactly.
there's a future. So the same thing applies to entrepreneurship, business leaders, directors, HR people whose job is to attract talent. It's a personal brand. You got to put personal touches on these things too, just like the shoe was what you're talking about for the shoe on the worker's foot.
Right, exactly. From an entrepreneurial standpoint, you want to make sure you provide value through content, build trust, build credibility, and then people automatically automatically start coming to you,
Yeah,
right? And that's also part of your personal brand. You really need to, as you said, show your personality,
yeah.
right? And that's when people know whether you're authentic or not, and talk about real problems and talk about your problems and
Show
how you are solving them.
vulnerability. Show that you're vulnerable, that you're human.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a key word. And one of the biggest words that's key, and I use it in my speech, it says transformation, different than change. People are so used to changing and doing all this, going through all these transformations. Or change is transformative. Change is really the permanent thing, and that's kind of the new buzzword. Like your book, you have it in the book, I have it in my speech, but it is. And the key to transformation is doing it consistently and always trying to get better and always trying to learn something, to be that openness to I'm never done learning, because
Right.
change is temporary because you go back to your old ways, but
Right.
transformation means consistent growth and growing and learn, I think, you
Yeah, I
know.
think people have to believe in the power of delayed gratification. We live in this
Mm,
digital age where people want results immediately. They see the social media influencer, and then if they have their picture next to their Ferrari
yeah,
or their
yeah,
big mansion,
mm,
they think, "Oh, I want to become like them." But you don't
yes.
know the backstory. They may be $100 million in debt, and they're maintaining a social media profile, or they work their ass off for 20 years to get to that level, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
they
right.
think they want results immediately, but it's not about immediate results. It's about doing the work, taking small steps, and then over a period of time, you're going to start seeing results, because it's the journey which is going to teach you a lot. And then when you get the results, you'll embrace it, you'll acknowledge it for 2 days, then move on to the next one. And that's how life is.
Well, I appreciate your time here, man. I do it, and I know that you gave a special code to the guest if they go to your website and they hit podcast when they're at your store, and you have pretty cool merch. It looks like the code word is podcast for 50% off, which is very generous of you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, and I forgot to tell you that all the proceeds actually go to charity.
Oh wow,
So
hold on,
I don't
that's a
make
big
any
one.
money.
Thank you for that. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being here. I'm going to get you on my other show It's called The Risk Factor with Jeremy Torrisk. And we're going to do a lot of business stuff and risk stuff with mental health issues and how to hire people with maybe some differing abilities, but also stress, overcoming conflict, and these anxieties that you talk about, a job interview and that kind of stuff. It's going to fit perfect in that format. If you would indulge me and come on that show, I would owe you a gratitude of debt, because I think you're a great guest.
I would love to do that. In fact, uh, just to give an audience a taste for what to expect, I was actually admitted in the ER and I suffered severe burnout. And that actually was another event which happened, but we'll reserve that
Yes.
conversation for your other podcast. That's how I got into mindfulness
Wow.
and then productivity hacks. And that's how my whole life is now a strategy. And that's why I market myself as a tech career strategist, because I literally provide you strategy, step by step blueprint of 3 months. This is what is going to happen. In 6 months, this is what is going to happen. Right.
Yes.
In that
Well,
way, you have lesser stress level.
and that to lower your stress, I think, and this is just coming, it's an evolution. I think I'm gonna make that a long form show, maybe an hour or an hour and a half, and then just cut it up into 20-30 minute segments. Do part 1, part 2, part 3, because people are, if it goes over 20 minutes, nobody tunes in anymore. So I'm always cramming stuff in. So for that show, I think I'm gonna take the gloves off. Let's have a real conversation, and then just piece it out in parts.
Yeah, I think that'll be a great way to do that. Yeah.
Thanks,
For
Raj, for being here. Give me half a second. Let me say goodbye to my peeps. I appreciate every single person that watches this. And I don't know what's going on with the sides of my thing. And actually, the background, I don't think I told you guys I'm experimenting with some green screen things. But thanks for indulging me today with Raj and learning the great stuff that he has to offer. And don't forget to go pro.